Okay, we're back on our microphone. So looking at the wires that we just identified, 3 of them are coming from one of the holes and 4 are coming from the other. So the 3 that are coming from this hole, there's red and white from the transformer and white from the XLR. And if we look at these sheets, we see that those 3 go to this board that has the transistors, and the other wires, these 5, go to the side, to the PC board without the transistors on it. These 4 wires, excuse me. I said 5. I meant 4. So black, orange, blue, and green. So they're coming out holes on the right side, so that's good. So now we're going to solder those, and I'm going to start off soldering those to the PC boards, the ones coming from the transformer and the XLR. I'll do the 3 that go to this printed circuit board first. So looking at it next to the drawing, we have white from the XLR, white from the transformer, and then red. And if you notice, the white from the XLR and white from the transformer, those are connected together. So if you were to reverse them, not really realizing which white was white, which white was transformer and which was XLR, it would still be okay. But I do recommend that you still make an effort to put them where they're supposed to go, because it'll help you identify them later on if there's a problem. So to the far left, looking at the top, is white from the XLR, which is the one I put the black stripe on. So we'll just slide that through the hole. And if you try to put all 3 through at the same time and then solder them, it probably won't work. So I'm just going to do one at a time. And I've been doing this long enough that I can hold the circuit board and the solder and the iron with 2 hands. You might not be able to do that. You might need the help of someone else to hold something for you. And I put that in the wrong spot. So I'll take that out. We've got some solder there now that we might not want. And if that happens to you, let me know, and I will show you a couple different ways to clean it up. For right now, I am just going to work around it, just for the expediency of this video. So I can heat it up. That's correct. And again, make sure you keep track of whether the picture is showing you the top of the board and you're working on the top of the board and you're not looking at the bottom and going with the same directions. So this picture shows the top of the board, the side where the components are. I'll do the red one. So that printed circuit board is done for the connections from the transformer and XLR. We'll flip the wire over and do the other side. So now we have the black wire for the transformers first. And then the orange wire from the XLR. Again, double check that your colors are what they're supposed to be. Mine are different from this page, and I corrected them. Yours might be like mine, they might be different, so make sure you're checking that. And then blue is next. So I started to put blue there, but that is actually the middle hole there needs to connect the two printed circuit boards together. So the blue wire from the XLR actually goes to the third hole. And then the green wire to the transformer is the last hole. And there we go. Now, most of these had pretty short wires. That last transformer wire was a little long, so I'm going to clip its lead. If there's extra sticking out, you should clip it just to make sure. So now there's one more connection for the bottom of these PC boards where I just soldered those. And that's to connect from this middle hole to the same point on the other printed circuit board. And it says there's a wire for that, a blue wire. And there is indeed a blue wire for me. Again, it might be a different color for you. So I'm going to do the same thing, put this one through. And then I'll connect that to the other circuit board. I waited to do that just to have some more freedom of movement for the circuit boards as I was soldering the other leads. And then for this one, it actually solders to the same place where the white transformer connection solders. So I'm going to solder it to the back of the circuit board, to that same point where the white wire is going in. So this looks a little not proper, but they didn't include an extra point on the circuit board like they should have. So, but that is perfectly fine. It's a perfectly good electrical connection. So we're closing in on finishing here. We're now to the connections on the top of the circuit boards. So right now I've got the one with the transistors on it, which has actually most of the connections. So it's worth doing that one first. So I don't know that there's a particular order that makes sense here. I'm going to go ahead and do I think those will go last. So I'm going to hold off on the pad, or the roll-off, I mean, till last. And I'll do these at the top first. So we've got two wires over here. And one thing to make sure of is that you're looking carefully at what these connections are. So where A and B go, so there's here where we've got C2 and R5, and then there's this capacitor, which is this one. The capacitor goes up to here. So that's our B point, that's our A point, and then there's this. And so on our actual printed circuit board, we've got this additional P connection here, an additional hole that goes to this connection all the way around, which is ground. And one of the ways to know that is that it connects to these metal screw points, which will connect to the chassis, and that's going to be ground. So that's not listed here, but it's important to catch on. But just make sure that if it looks at all different, your printed circuit board from the drawing you've got, trace back to the components so you can see where you're supposed to be going. Maybe from this, maybe on a schematic, depending on what project you're working on. For this one, this sheet will tell you a lot. But for later projects you're doing, because you can read schematics, it's really useful to have that. So the B and A wires are extra wires that we're going to add. So we'll go ahead and start with those, because once these wires from the capsule are soldered on, it's harder to move this around. So it says a red and a white wire, and I actually have a yellow and a white wire, which is fine. But I'll go ahead and put the white where it says to. Solder that. And again, you may want to get somebody to hold these for you, because these in particular are very difficult to get soldered in without moving around. And then the yellow wire, where it says there should be a red wire. So now those are ready to go to the other printed circuit board when it's time. Now we're going to work on the white wire from the pad and blue wire from the capsule. Those are going to the same place, so we're going to twist them together. Pliers. This makes it easier to put them in the same hole in the printed circuit board. And they go into this little brass colored one. You can solder from either side in this case. Doesn't really matter. Because of that brass being metal, it'll take a little extra heat. It'll also take it longer to cool down, so you can try and hold it still after you take the heat off. Okay, so that's done. And notice every wire I add, it gets harder and harder to move this around, so you got to be deliberate about which wires you put in when. And then we have the other pad and the red capsule. So I'll do the red capsule first. And that goes where R4 and C2 and CF connect. So right here to this point. And I think it's easiest to just solder to the back of the printed circuit board for that. Pliers will be helpful here. Should be enough solder there to heat it up and hold the wire in place. And then the other wire from the pad. So it goes to this hole right here, beside CF. So the only thing left to solder to this printed circuit board are the red wires for the pad. And I'm going to do those after the printed circuit board is mounted. So now we've got 2 wires remaining from our pad, and then 2 wires that connect the 2 printed circuit boards together. So the pad wires show here next to this where a switch would be if we were putting it right on the printed circuit board. And if you look, there are actually no holes on this side. So they're actually pads on the other side of the board. So if we look, we can see there they are, right there and right there. So we're wanting to solder directly to those. That's where they show you here in the picture. However, if you follow over, they go to the top and middle connectors of these 2 that look like they should be a switch. So if we connected there and there, we'll have it. And I think that's a little neater way to do this. So instead of soldering to the back. So I'm actually going to push those wires in, and they'll fall back out, and I'll push them in again. I have to say the lights for this camera make it hard to do some of this. So we'll solder the first wire. And the second wire goes to the middle connection. So this board is done now. So this circuit board is done now. And we'll go ahead and mount it back onto the frame. Just make sure the wires don't get caught. Just doing that, because you don't want to pull off wires you just soldered, you'll be very frustrated. Put the first screw in, but don't tighten it all the way until you've got the second one in. And then we have 2 more solder connections, and we should have a working microphone after that. sorry, 3 more connections. So we've got this black wire, white wire, and the yellow wire. So the white and yellow wires come from one PC board to the other. And they are the A and B wires on this picture. And then that extra hole that I showed you earlier next to the A connection is for the black wire. So the white wire goes in closest to, so the black wire actually goes onto this circuit board that we just finished. So I'm going to go back and do that now. And either side has a connection to the ground point, so either one is fine. So that's the black wire going to the first printed circuit board. And then we have, on this board that doesn't have the transistors, we have A and B. So we have A, which is the yellow wire for us. It says red, the yellow for us. That goes beside the plus mark on the printed circuit board. And then the white one goes to the beside the minus. So I'll cut off my extra leads. That board is done. Screw it back in. And then find my other screw. Okay, found the other screw. They are tiny and they do get away from you. So our microphone is complete now. Everything wired up. So we're going to try it out. I'm going to unplug the microphone I've been using, which actually looks like this. And now you're just hearing me through the camera's microphone. I'll plug this in. And I'll turn it just so we're just hearing that microphone now that I just built. You may wonder, wow, Stocky, you built a piece of crap. It's really noisy. It has a big loud hum. Yours will too at this stage, because all of your components here are exposed. There's no shielding for them. But at this point you want to test to make sure you're getting audio. We are. So now we'll put the cover on and it should be quiet. So we'll do that. Again, I'm going to have to unplug. Back to hearing me just through the camera microphone. This slides on. There are a couple slots in the case. Those fit over your switches. And cap screws on. Again, yours should be a pretty red. I pick up the red tomorrow. The red cases tomorrow, so we'll see how they look. I'll plug it back into the camera. Microphone. The hum is gone because we have shielding now over the microphone. So that's how easy it is to build your microphone. Enjoy.